She smiled and asked if I loved my new home. And that's when I realized everyone knew something I didn't. My grandmother's kitchen had always been my safe place. The kind of room where nothing bad was supposed to happen. Warm light through lace curtains. A kettle humming. Her hands moving slowly, carefully, like time respected her more than it did the rest of us. We were sitting at the table when she looked at me and smiled. "So," she said, eyes bright, "are you settled in? Do you like the house?" I laughed, because that's what you do when something doesn't make sense. "What house, Grandma?" Her smile faltered. "Just a little. Enough to notice. The one your parents handled for you," she said. "I thought you moved in already." The air changed. My father stared into his cup like it suddenly mattered more than anything else. My mother adjusted her sweater, too calm, too quick. I felt something drop in my chest. "I think she's confused," my mom said, smiling tightly. "You know how she gets." My grandmother frowned. "No, I'm not." I was very clear. That house was for him. House. The word echoed louder than it should have. I didn't argue, didn't question further. I smiled back at her and said, "It's probably just paperwork delays." But my parents didn't relax. Fear sat on their faces, heavy and exposed. That night, back in my tiny apartment with cracked walls and buzzing lights, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. If there was a house, and it wasn't mine, then someone had made a decision about my life without me. I waited before asking my parents about it. Not because I was scared, but because I wanted to hear how carefully they'd lie. We sat in their living room, family photos lining the walls like proof of loyalty. I kept my tone light. "Grandma mentioned something about a house," I said. "Sounded pretty specific." My dad sighed. "She misunderstands things. She said it was handled," I replied. "By you." My mom smiled. "These things are complicated, Marcus. Family assets. Legal stuff." That word again. Assets. Before I could respond, my cousin Jamal walked through, scrolling on his phone. "Renovations look crazy," he muttered. "That place is gonna be nice." Silence slammed down. "What renovations?" I asked. Jamal froze. "Oh, I thought you knew." My father stood up sharply. "That's enough." No one explained anything. Later never came. Instead, I got lectures about patience, gratitude, how hard they'd worked, how I shouldn't make everything about me. That night, I searched property records, and I found the address. I didn't feel rage when I saw the records. I felt cold. The county website loaded slowly, like it wanted to prepare me. Parcel number, address, my grandmother's name, then a transfer date that made my throat tighten. A signature that wasn't hers alone. Another name added. Not mine. I scrolled back up, checked again, then again. My name never appeared. Not as owner, not as beneficiary, not even as a consideration. The transfer date sat there quietly, mocking me. Same year I lost my job. Same year I borrowed money from friends. Same year my parents told me, "Just be patient. Things are moving." They were moving, just not toward me. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen, memories replaying themselves with new meaning. Conversations where they told me not to worry about housing. Comments about family property being complicated. The way they insisted I stay where I was a little longer. They weren't delaying. They were deciding. I realized something else then. Something that stung deeper than the theft itself. They didn't think I'd ever check. They didn't think I was capable of understanding paperwork, systems, ownership. They thought I'd stay grateful for scraps and explanations. I closed the laptop without printing anything. Not because I was done. Because I was just starting. I didn't need to confront them yet. I needed context, patterns, motive, and more than anything, I needed them comfortable. Because people reveal the most when they think they've already won. I stopped asking questions. No more hints. No more curiosity. No more just wondering. I went back to being the easy son. The calm nephew. The one who didn't make things awkward. And almost immediately, the energy shifted. My mother started calling more often. Long conversations that went nowhere. My father invited me to dinner twice in 1 week. something he hadn't done in months. They watched my reactions closely, like they were waiting for a slip. An aunt pulled me aside one afternoon and said, "You seem quiet lately." "I'm good," I said. She nodded slowly. "That's good. Sometimes silence can be misunderstood." I smiled. "I'm not upset." She didn't smile back. That night, I overheard my parents in the kitchen. Not yelling, whispering. "What if he already knows?" my mother asked. "If he knew," my father said, "he'd say something. He always does." That's when it hit me. They didn't fear confrontation. They feared control slipping. Silence wasn't calming them. It was unsettling them. Because silence meant they didn't know where I stood. And for the first time in my life, I didn't rush to reassure them. I let them sit with the uncertainty. Because while they were watching me, I was watching everything. I went to see my grandmother alone. She was folding laundry slowly, carefully, like each movement mattered. When I asked her about the house, she smiled, proud, gentle. "I wanted you to be stable," she said. "I didn't want you struggling the way I did." I asked her what she remembered signing. Her smile faded. She told me my parents said the paperwork was temporary, that they'd hold the property until I was ready, that they promised it would still be mine. "They said it was safer that way," she whispered. I trusted them. That word, trusted, landed heavy. She explained the conditions she'd insisted on. Clauses tied to her care, the house's use, limits on leverage. Protections meant to keep everyone honest. Protections my parents ignored. "They told me you knew," she said quietly. "That you agreed." I swallowed hard. "They lied to you," I said gently. Her hands trembled. In that moment, it stopped being just about me. They hadn't only taken from their son. They had manipulated their mother. And that made this something else entirely. Something they wouldn't be able to talk their way out of. I stopped thinking emotionally. I thought structurally. I gathered documents the way professionals do, quietly, thoroughly. Estate plans, transfer deeds, financial records. Every timestamp told a story my parents never expected me to read. The house wasn't just transferred. It was leveraged, used as collateral, tied to plans that benefited someone else entirely. Plans that violated the conditions my grandmother put in place. They didn't just bend the rules. They broke them. And they did it confidently because they didn't think anyone would challenge them. Especially not me. I organized everything into folders. Labeled cleanly. No commentary. No anger. Just facts. I realized then that I didn't need to accuse them. Institutions don't respond to emotion. They respond to documentation. And once something enters that system, there's no family meeting that can undo it. I closed the folder and sat back. They still thought this was about a house. They had no idea it was about exposure. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even change my tone. I just stopped being predictable. One evening at dinner, I mentioned casually that I'd been reading about long-term financial planning. Nothing dramatic. No implication. Just a sentence dropped between bites of food. My father froze. "What made you interested in that?" he asked. I shrugged. "I'm 30. Figured it was time to understand how things really work." My mother laughed too loudly. "You don't need to stress about that stuff. Family takes care of family." That phrase used to comfort me. Now it sounded like a warning. Over the next few days, the energy shifted. Calls came more often. Messages asking if I was okay. Invitations to talk things through. Suddenly, everyone wanted clarity. "We should sit down," my father said. "Make sure there are no misunderstandings." Misunderstandings. That word told me everything. People don't fear misunderstandings unless there's something they're hoping stays misunderstood. I kept my responses short, calm, non-committal. Inside, I could feel the balance tipping. They weren't scared of losing the house. They were scared of losing control over the narrative. And for the first time, I realized how much they relied on my silence. Not because it was respectful, but because it kept them safe. They had built everything assuming I'd never step outside my role. And now they could feel it slipping. The clause wasn't hidden. It wasn't vague. It was specific and unforgiving. Any misuse of the property beyond its stated purpose triggered a formal review. Any leverage against it without consent violated the estate agreement. Any violation transferred authority away from the handlers. They had done all three, confidently, because they never imagined I'd read it. The irony was almost painful. They prided themselves on being smart, on handling things quietly. But the very systems they trusted were designed to punish exactly this kind of behavior. I didn't need a lawyer to threaten them. I needed paperwork to speak. I organized the documents carefully. No emotional language. No commentary. Just a clear timeline that showed intent, misuse, and violation. I sent the file to the appropriate office with a single line. Please review for compliance. That was it. No explanation to my parents. No confrontation. No warning. I didn't feel satisfaction when I clicked send. I felt calm. Because once something enters that system, there's no reversing it with apologies or family meetings. They thought silence meant ignorance. They didn't realize silence was the space I used to position myself perfectly. The response came quicker than I expected. Official letters. Requests for clarification. Notices that didn't ask permission, they stated facts. My phone started ringing. My mother's voice shook. Why didn't you come to us first? My father sounded angry. This didn't have to go this far. I listened without interrupting. They offered solutions, transfers, explanations, even apologies, the rushed kind, shaped by fear rather than regret. We'll give it back, my mother said. We'll fix everything. I finally spoke. That doesn't undo what you did, I said quietly, because the truth was simple. Giving it back wasn't justice. It was damage control. They weren't sorry they took it. They were sorry they got caught. The process moved forward without me needing to push. Institutions don't care about tone or history. They care about compliance. And my parents were no longer in control. For the first time, I wasn't the one waiting for answers. They were. I never took the house. People assume that means I lost. I didn't. I gained clarity. My grandmother is protected now, legally and unmistakably. No one speaks for her without accountability. No one handles things in the shadows anymore. My parents lost access to my life. Not because I punished them, but because I stopped allowing proximity without respect. There were no dramatic final conversations. No shouting. No closure speeches. Just distance. I moved forward quietly, built my life on terms no one else could rearrange. I stopped asking for approval, stopped waiting to be included. They gave my future away because they thought I wouldn't notice. They were wrong. I didn't need revenge that looked loud or destructive. I needed truth, timing, and restraint. And in the end, I walked away with something far more valuable than a house. I walked away with myself intact. And that's something no one can ever take again.